The shuttle trembled as it pierced the dense, ochre clouds of Arden 9, a planet long dismissed as uninhabitable. Caleb gripped the armrest, his knuckles pale beneath the pressure of his gloves. Around him, the hum of the engines felt almost deafening, though outside, the planet awaited in eerie silence. Beside him, Mira adjusted her visor, the soft light casting angular shadows across her focused face. "This region doesn't make sense," she muttered. "The scans show nothing, absolutely nothing. Yet, something is drawing us here." Joran, the youngest of the team, tapped nervously at the control panel, checking the final approach. "Command said it was barren," he said, voice barely audible over the shuttle's vibration. "I don't like surprises that aren't on the logs." The shuttle shuddered again as turbulence rattled the cabin. Outside, the landscape slowly revealed itself, a barren desert, but unlike any they'd seen before. Towering rock formations jutted from the red sands, and scattered across the horizon were shapes that didn't belong to nature. Angular, geometric, ruins. Caleb exhaled sharply. "Structures," he said, his voice a mix of awe and apprehension. Myra's eyes widened behind her visor. "Structures? Are you sure?" The shuttle touched down with a low thud, sand billowing around its landing skids. The team braced as the engines powered down. Outside, a wind rose, carrying a faint metallic tang, almost like iron rusted long ago. It swept over the landing site, tugging at the edges of their suits. "Let's move," Caleb said, stepping onto the planet's surface. The sand beneath their boots felt coarse, vibrating slightly with each step, as if Arden 9 itself had a heartbeat. They reached the first ruins within minutes. Massive slabs of stone, broken towers, and crumbling walls, half buried in sand. The markings on them were unlike any known language. Some etched symbols seemed to twist under the helmet lights, almost moving as if alive. Joran crouched to examine a large stone slab. This isn't human," he murmured. "These carvings, they're not just language. It's like a map or a record, but I can't read it." Myra's visor picked up something unusual in the distance, a flicker of movement between two jagged walls. She froze. "Did you see that?" Caleb squinted. Nothing moved. Yet the sensation of being watched pressed down on them, heavy and insistent. The ruins seemed too still, yet too aware of their presence. A sudden vibration rippled through the ground, subtle at first, then stronger. Caleb's hand instinctively went to the device on his belt. A scanner for seismic activity, but the readout was impossible. No tectonic activity. No wind patterns strong enough to cause it. And yet the ground beneath their feet pulsed, like the ruins themselves were alive. "Something's waiting," Caleb whispered, barely audible even to himself. Mira took a cautious step closer to the largest structure, a towering archway carved from black stone, its edges glowing faintly with a metallic sheen under their lights. The hum intensified, and the shadows inside seemed to stretch, curling in ways that defied the angles of the structure. "Stay close," Caleb warned. He felt an unshakable urge to leave, but the pull of discovery rooted him in place. They had trained for years for this, the unknown, the dangerous, the unprecedented. But nothing had prepared them for this silence that screamed. Suddenly, a shadow flickered across the sand at the edge of Myra's vision. She turned sharply, heart hammering, but the space was empty. The wind carried the sound of faint whispers, almost like voices just below perception, speaking in tones that made her skin crawl. Joran swallowed hard. "This place, it's wrong. Everything about it, the air, the sand, the ruins. It's like it remembers something." Caleb nodded, feeling the same prickling unease. "We need to document everything. Record it all. But be ready for anything. I don't think we're alone." As they moved toward the archway, the metallic hum swelled, vibrating through their suits and into their bones. Shadows in the ruins shifted again, faster this time, almost darting between pillars, but never fully revealing themselves. Mira glanced at Caleb, eyes wide. Did that thing just move again?" Caleb's jaw tightened. "We're not imagining it. Something is here. Something alive." The wind carried a faint, almost melodic resonance, weaving between the ruins. It tugged at the edges of their minds, like the planet itself was whispering secrets. And somewhere, deep within the stones, a presence waited, patient, unseen, and aware that trespassers had finally arrived. The explorers pressed onward, unaware that with every step they took into the ruins, they were walking into a memory long preserved, and something still alive, watching them, calculating, waiting. The ruins of Arden 9 stretched before them like the skeleton of a world frozen in time. Towering walls, cracked and scarred by centuries, loomed over the explorers. Some were toppled, others leaned at impossible angles, yet all seemed deliberately placed, as if the architects had wanted to impress, intimidate, or perhaps warn. Mira traced her fingers over the jagged edges of a carved relief. The symbols glimmered faintly beneath her touch, etched with such precision that they seemed to pulse with a life of their own. These carvings, they aren't just decoration. They're messages, she whispered. But I can't read them. Joran crouched near a circular device embedded in the sand, a flat disc of dark metal, its edges inscribed with strange, spiraling patterns. It pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. Look at this, he said. It's active. It shouldn't be. Nothing on this planet should be alive. Caleb's gaze swept the ruins. Shadows moved unnaturally across the cracked stone walls, elongating, shrinking, vanishing, only to reappear somewhere else. Every instinct screamed that they were being watched. Mira swallowed hard. Whatever built this, it wasn't human. Look at the proportions of the pillars, the geometry. Nothing matches Earth's physics exactly. And the symbols, they almost feel intelligent, but alien. A sudden, sharp vibration rippled through the sand. The device at Joran's feet responded immediately, its pulses accelerating. He backed away, eyes wide. It's reacting to us, or something nearby. Before Caleb could respond, a whisper brushed against their ears. Not wind, not static, but a clear, soft, almost sentient murmur. Words they didn't understand but somehow felt familiar. It slipped into their minds like a key turning in a lock, triggering memories that weren't theirs. Myra's heart hammered. Did you hear that? Yes, Caleb said, voice low. We're not alone. From the corner of his eye, Joran froze. A shadow detached itself from the ruins, moving fluidly between the collapsed walls. It didn't walk, it flowed, almost like smoke made of solid darkness. The shadow paused, watching them, then disappeared behind a fallen tower. Caleb raised a hand, signaling silence. Stay calm. Don't provoke it. Myra's scanner beeped erratically. The readings defied logic, energy signatures spiking, then vanishing. It's invisible to instruments, but it's there. I can feel it, she said, voice tight. They pressed on, venturing deeper into the ruins. The walls now towered above them like cliffs, carved in perfect arcs and angles that defied conventional engineering. The air grew colder, heavier, almost viscous, making each breath a labor. Then they came to a vast plaza, the ground etched with concentric circles that glimmered faintly in the helmet lights. At its center lay a monolith taller than any of them, black as obsidian, engraved with symbols that seemed to move when you weren't looking directly at them. Joran approached cautiously. This isn't just a monument. It's a recording device. Caleb's eyes narrowed. A recording device? Of what? Joran placed a hand on the monolith. A pulse of energy shot through him. His body froze, and holographic images flared into existence around the plaza. Cities with soaring towers, creatures with elongated limbs and glowing eyes, and vast networks of machinery unlike anything known to human science. They moved and built, thrived, communicated, but then vanished, leaving nothing but the ruins around them. Mira stumbled back, staring at the projections. This civilization, it disappeared in an instant. And we're seeing it now, why? A soft, resonant growl echoed through the plaza. Not a roar, but a deep vibration that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Shadows shifted again, faster this time, darting across the ruins and disappearing. Caleb raised his weapon, heart racing. Show yourself, he shouted. The growl stopped. Silence returned, but it was thicker, almost oppressive, like the ruins themselves were listening. Then, a single figure emerged from the shadows. Its form was impossible to define. Fluid, ever-changing, a silhouette of darkness that seemed to absorb the light around it. Its gaze fixed on them. Not eyes, but awareness, a conscious, calculating presence. The air vibrated with its attention. "You are trespassing," it said. The voice wasn't spoken aloud. It reverberated inside their minds, resonating with their thoughts. "Why have you come here?" Myra's voice trembled. "We didn't mean to disturb, we're explorers." The entity's form shifted, stretching upward, then narrowing into impossibility, like it could exist in more dimensions than their minds could comprehend. "Disturb," it whispered in their minds. "You are the first to return since the silence." Joran swallowed hard, stepping back. "Silence." The figure didn't answer directly. Instead, the plaza's monolith flared again, projecting images of the civilization's last moments. Cities collapsing, beings fleeing into unknown portals, structures disintegrating as if erased from reality. And in the shadows, the entity moved, a reminder that some part of that world still endured, watching, waiting, alive. Caleb motioned toward the shuttle. "We need to document this, but we need to be careful. Whatever that is, it's not friendly." Myra's gaze lingered on the shifting figure. Something about it felt intelligent, almost sentient, yet alien beyond comprehension. The ruins had secrets, and now they had noticed the intruders who had dared to awaken them. The explorers moved cautiously, unaware that with every step deeper into the ruins, they were stepping into a memory long preserved, and into the awareness of something still alive, waiting and judging. Night fell over the ruins of Arden 9 like a velvet shroud, smothering the red sands in darkness. The only light came from the faint glow of their helmets and the scattered luminescence of the monoliths. Shadows twisted unnaturally, lengthening and shrinking as though the planet itself were alive and breathing. Caleb led the team through a narrow corridor of crumbling stone. The air was colder now, heavier, almost liquid in its density, making every breath a struggle. Behind them, faint whispers floated through the shadows, indecipherable but insistent. Every step seemed to echo not just through the ruins, but through the minds of the explorers. Joran glanced back nervously. "Do you feel that?" he whispered. "It's like the walls are watching us." Mira nodded, eyes wide behind her visor. "I can feel it in my chest. Like they're alive. Or something in them is." Ahead, the plaza opened into a vast chamber, far larger than the ruins suggested from the outside. The floor was etched with concentric symbols that shimmered faintly, and at the center stood the tallest monolith yet. Its surface pulsed in time with a low, resonant hum, vibrating through the ground and into their bones. Joran approached the monolith cautiously, fingertips brushing the carvings. Suddenly, holographic projections burst into life above the stone, cities alive with movement, alien beings with elongated limbs and luminous eyes, intricate networks of machinery thrumming with energy. They built, communicated, and thrived in ways the explorers could scarcely comprehend. Then, abruptly, the projections stuttered, buildings crumbling, structures collapsing, beings vanishing into flashes of light. A civilization erased in an instant, leaving only the silent ruins around them. Mira stepped back, voice trembling. "It's showing us everything. Their lives, their cities, their end." A movement in the corner of the chamber caught her eye. She froze. Shadows coalesced into a form, a figure of darkness, fluid and ever-shifting. It didn't walk, it flowed like liquid smoke, morphing as it moved, yet its presence was unmistakable. Caleb raised his weapon, heart pounding. "Show yourself." The figure paused, hovering silently above the ground. Its form shimmered and fractured, impossible to focus on. Then a voice echoed, not aloud, but directly into their minds. "You have returned," it said. "Why?" Mira swallowed hard, her voice barely audible. We didn't mean to disturb, we're explorers. Scientists. We study the unknown." The entity tilted its form, tilting the shadows themselves, as if examining them. "Explorers, first to return since the silence. You awaken memories long dormant. Joran stepped back, glancing at the projections still hovering in the air. Memories? You mean this civilization? Was up you. The figure's voice surged in their minds, resonant and vibrating. I am the memory. The last echo. Their existence lingers because I remember. And now, you have arrived. Caleb lowered his weapon slightly, awe creeping into his fear. Why show us this? Because, the entity replied, shifting closer, the shadows rippling around it like waves. Memory without witness dies. Your kind forgets. Yet you can carry the memory forward or be consumed by it. The chamber vibrated violently. The symbols on the floor flared, pulsing with a rhythm that synced to the entity's voice. Shadows flickered along the walls, stretching toward the explorers, almost tangible. Myra's visor flickered as the whispers intensified. Words formed in her mind, not her thoughts, but a foreign language she somehow understood. Remember. Preserve. Survive. Caleb felt the vibrations crawl up his spine. It's testing us, he whispered. It's seeing if we can handle it. If we're worthy. Suddenly, the entity surged forward, morphing into multiple forms, each echoing its dark, fluid presence. The air rippled, and the ruins themselves seemed to shift around them. Joran stumbled, nearly tripping over the raised edges of the floor carvings. Mira grabbed his arm. We need to stay calm. Focus. The entity's voice filled their minds again. You are not here to conquer, not here to destroy. You are here to witness. To remember. Decide. Will you carry this memory, or let it consume you? The chamber seemed to tilt, the shadows folding into impossible angles. The projections of the vanished civilization shimmered violently, blurring past and present into one. Caleb, Mira, and Joran felt the weight of millennia pressing against them. Lives, joys, fears, ambitions, all gone, erased except for the presence before them. Myra's voice broke the silence. We will remember. The shadows recoiled slightly, as if acknowledging her choice. The vibrations softened, the whispers fading to a low hum. The monolith's light dimmed, and the holographic projections stabilized, now calm, showing the civilization frozen in their last moment of life. Caleb exhaled, his weapon lowering fully. It's alive, but not hostile. Just aware. Joran shook his head. But it's still waiting. Watching. Testing. The entity's presence receded, folding into the monolith itself. Its voice lingered in their minds, a soft echo. Carry the memory. Preserve what was lost. If you dare. The explorers stood in silence, absorbing the enormity of what they had just witnessed. Arden 9 was more than ruins. It was a sentinel of memory, a world alive in ways they could barely comprehend. And somewhere deep in the shadows, the entity waited, its awareness lingering, patient, ready for the next step of its awakening. The chamber trembled beneath their feet. Shadows stretched unnaturally along the walls, flickering like living ink. The monoliths pulsed faintly, casting the explorers' elongated figures across the floor, and then, the air shifted. A low, resonant vibration rolled through the ruins, deeper than anything they had felt before. Caleb turned sharply. It's moving! Before Mira or Joran could respond, the entity surged forward from the shadows. Its form was fluid, twisting and splitting into multiple shapes, each darker than the surrounding darkness. It moved faster than their eyes could follow, slipping through walls and floor cracks, emerging in places they hadn't noticed existed. Run! Caleb shouted, grabbing Myra's hand. The words barely left his lips before the first shadow reached them, stretching toward their legs like liquid tendrils. The explorers sprinted down a corridor that seemed to elongate and twist in impossible ways. Every turn they took became a labyrinth. The walls themselves appeared to shift, collapsing behind them and rising ahead, disorienting their senses. Joran stumbled over a jagged stone. This isn't real, he yelled, scrambling to his feet. Myra's visor flickered. The shadows were everywhere now, moving independently, splitting into shapes that darted ahead, then disappeared, only to reappear behind them. The whispers returned, louder, sharper, almost like hundreds of voices murmuring threats and warnings simultaneously. Caleb's heart pounded. "Keep moving. Don't stop." It's... A wall before them erupted. Dark tendrils surged out, lashing at them. Caleb threw himself to the side, grabbing Mira and yanking her away. The tendrils struck the stone floor with a thunderous crack, sending shards flying. Joran's voice trembled. "It's hunting us." "Yes, and it's learning how we move," Caleb yelled, adjusting his scanner. The device, once inert, now pulsed violently as if reacting to the entity. The monoliths along the corridor glimmered and shimmered, forming new paths that weren't there a moment ago. The ruins themselves had become a living trap. Myra's breath came in sharp bursts. "We can't keep running forever. It's too fast. And these corridors, they keep changing." Joran pointed ahead. A side passage. They darted into a narrower corridor, shadows snapping at their heels. The walls seemed to close in, and the floor pulsed beneath them. Caleb noticed that every step they took was mirrored by the shadows. They anticipated their movement. "Split up," Caleb yelled. "It can't follow all of us at once." Mira hesitated, fear freezing her for a split second, but then she dashed left while Caleb and Joran veered right. Immediately, the tendrils followed the path of the one they hadn't taken, slashing violently along the walls. Mira stumbled into a side chamber filled with fallen statues, their forms grotesque and elongated. The shadows swirled into the room behind her, stretching to reach her, whispering words that made her skin crawl. "You are alone. You cannot escape." She ducked behind a fallen obelisk, her heart hammering. Her scanner beeped frantically, picking up spikes in energy all around her. The entity was more than a shadow. It was connected to the ruins themselves, drawing power from the monoliths, manipulating the environment to hunt them. Meanwhile, Caleb and Joran ran down another corridor, leaping over shattered floors. Caleb's weapon discharged a pulse of energy, striking a tendril. It dissipated, but another formed immediately in its place. "Weapons barely work," he yelled. "It adapts too fast." Joran panted. "Then what do we do?" Caleb's eyes scanned the shifting walls. "We need the device. It reacted to the entity before. Maybe we can lure it." Mira, hearing this faintly through her communicator, realized the same thing. The monolith in her chamber pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. If she could sync with it, maybe they could distract the entity long enough to escape. Suddenly, the shadows surged toward her, faster than before, slamming into the obelisk and sending stone fragments flying. She clenched the device in her hands, forcing it to resonate. A high-pitched tone rang out, echoing through the ruins, pulsing through the shadows. The entity recoiled momentarily, confused, its dark forms shivering. Mira ran, the path ahead forming as she moved. The monolith's pulse guided her, creating a corridor through the chaos. Elsewhere, Caleb and Joran saw the effect ripple through the ruins. The shadows hesitated, giving them a precious few seconds to regroup. They raced toward Myra's location, the sound of stone cracking behind them as the entity tried to reform. Breathless and terrified, they finally converged in a small plaza, the monolith's pulse stabilizing the surrounding ruins. The shadows had retreated for now, lingering at the edges like a predator waiting for its prey to make a mistake. Caleb dropped to his knees, chest heaving. "It's the patient. It's not just hunting us. It's testing us, shaping us." Mira nodded, clutching the device. "And it's learning from us. Every move we make, it's adapting." Joran shivered. "We survived, for now. But if it's still alive, still watching, this isn't over." From the shadows, a faint vibration echoed, low and almost amused, as if the entity were savoring the hunt. The ruins seemed to settle, but only temporarily. Somewhere deep within the ancient city, it waited, calculating, plotting the next step. The explorers had survived the chase, but Arden 9 had already claimed its first lesson. No one escaped completely, and the entity's patience was endless. The plaza fell silent. Shadows no longer twisted and lunged, but the air still vibrated with a presence that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Caleb, Mira, and Joran stood close together, breathing heavily, each heartbeat echoing in the strange stillness. The monolith pulsed softly at the center of the chamber, a faint rhythm like a heartbeat, guiding them toward the truth they were only beginning to understand. Then the shadows coalesced. The entity emerged fully, no longer fractured, no longer fleeing or hiding. Its form was impossible to describe, a swirling mass of darkness and liquid light, stretching and folding into itself, hovering above the floor as if gravity did not exist here. Yet despite its alien appearance, its awareness penetrated them completely. "I am the memory of this world," the entity said, not aloud but directly inside their minds, vibrating through every nerve, every thought. The last echo. "I am what remains of a civilization that sought to preserve itself against the void, and I have waited for witnesses. You have returned." Mira swallowed hard, her voice trembling. Why us? Why show us all of this?" "Because you are capable of remembrance," the entity replied. Its form rippled, a shadow folding in on itself like a living seal. "The others came and forgot. Your kind forgets. But you may carry memory forward. Or you may be consumed by it." Caleb's fingers clenched around his scanner. "Consumed? What does that mean?" The entity extended itself toward them, shadows stretching like arms, not to strike but to enfold. To carry the memory is to merge with it, to feel the lives of those who came before, the joy, the fear, the ambition, the loss. To forget is to die. To resist is to perish. You must choose. Joran stumbled backward, overwhelmed. "We can't possibly feel all of that." Mira stepped forward, trying to steady her voice. "Maybe we don't have to feel everything. Maybe we just need to remember what we saw. That's enough, isn't it?" The entity's presence pulsed. "Memory is not optional. You're now part of it. The choice is how you endure. Will you carry it willingly, or be consumed by it?" Caleb inhaled sharply, scanning the monolith. He realized that the device they had been carrying, the one that pulsed and resonated earlier, was the key. Its energy could channel the entity's memory, focusing it into a manageable stream rather than being overwhelmed by the entire civilization at once. "We can control it," he murmured. "Use the device to absorb only what we can handle. Guide the memory, not let it crush us." The shadows surged closer, testing, probing their resolve. The whispers filled their minds, millennia of thought, fleeting moments of joy, flashes of terror, cities rising and falling. Mira gritted her teeth and pressed the device to her chest. A surge of light pulsed through her visor, and the whispers coalesced into coherent impressions. She gasped, her mind suddenly able to grasp fragments of the vanished civilization. Caleb and Joran followed, synchronizing the device. The entity's voice, no longer threatening, softened, as if acknowledging their determination. "Then you will bear the memory. You will carry forward what was lost. You will become the echo of those who came before you." Time stretched, seconds feeling like hours, as the memories flowed into their minds. They saw cities made of impossible geometry, beings who communicated through thought and resonance, lives lived with beauty and complexity beyond human comprehension. They felt the fear of annihilation, the desperation of a people who vanished too soon. And yet, in the darkness, there was also hope, a will to survive through those who would remember. Finally, the pulse slowed. The shadows receded, folding back into the monolith, leaving the explorers standing in silence. Their suits were covered in dust, their lungs burned, their minds tingled with the enormity of what they had absorbed. Mira whispered, voice raw. "Remember, we carry it." Caleb nodded, scanning the ruins one last time. "The entity, it's alive. But it's not hostile. It wants witnesses. It wants memory preserved." Joran looked around, unease still etched into his features. "And if anyone else comes, will it do the same to them?" "Perhaps," Caleb said. "Or perhaps it waits. Patiently. As it has for centuries." The monolith's pulse dimmed until it was almost imperceptible. Arden 9 returned to silence, the ruins frozen once more in the stillness of the desert night. But inside the minds of the explorers, the echoes remained, memories of a vanished civilization, alive in a way that defied death, preserved through them. As they prepared to return to the shuttle, a faint whisper brushed their consciousness, soft and almost tender, "Remember, and carry forward, until the next echo arrives." The explorers looked at each other, a mixture of awe, fear, and determination. Ardenine had changed them forever. They had faced a presence older than humanity, absorbed the memory of a lost civilization, and survived. But the planet itself, and the entity that dwelled within, waited patiently. Somewhere deep in the ruins, it would awaken again, when the next intruders dared to uncover the echoes of the forgotten.